Hello. My headset's died, so oh wait, I have no volume. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Now I can hear you. That's excellent.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, how are you doing? So good to see you.
Good.
I have to say, I really am enjoying Russell in the meetings. And I know he probably felt a little on the spot at the last meeting, and that wasn't. I look forward to having a Scoutmaster conference with him to talk a little bit about that. But I hope he sees that we were just working through the rank. Hello, Megan.
Hi.
So I don't know who all is actually going to show up or not. I suppose we can get the ball rolling with who is in here. Let's see. Going down the list, the Darkos are represented. Lennox Coyle and Spencer Foster have aged out. Tried to extend an offer to Lennox to fight for his Eagle to get him some more time, but he's gone off to college and is done with it. Spencer, of course, aged out. JP Givens still has plans to get his Eagle. Of course, he's in football, and he's not seeing a lot of him. But I'm sure if we asked him to show up. Russell, I know I know the virtual meetings aren't the greatest things in the world after watching school for 6 hours, but he seems to be engaging and doing great. Aiden and Owen are represented. The Mangums aren't here. Evan's represented in the Vances. So we're missing the Mangums and the Vances. Tell you what, I'll go ahead and get things started. I know we all have a lot to do. And I put out an email, an agenda, and I hope you guys got to see that. It looked a little like this. And I know it's got a lot of words on it. The big important thing is we've got some calendars that will continue to be adjusted, but it'll give us some guidance to let me just run down real briefly. First of all, I wanted to ask, is everybody doing okay? Everybody need anything? Surviving COVID? Okay. So if you do need anything in your personal lives and whatnot, we're family. Be sure to mention it. Michael Feeney is not here right now. Some of you, if you've looked in on the meetings, may have seen this lady, Michael Feeney. She is technically, in full disclosure, she is Noah's girlfriend, but she came and helped us at the pancake breakfast at the beginning of the year. She comes from a family that's seriously into scouting, so she's real serious about it and has some good information. She's worked in food industry, so it was interesting seeing her work with the guys in the kitchen, because she was just like, you can't do that, which is great. They learned some stuff from her. She has to accumulate some service hours, and I asked, she said, is there anything I could do for the troop? And I said, if you'll come in and help us with recruiting, that can help us. And she said that would fit her service hours. Now she's been just kind of an adult, adding some commentary to the troop meetings, and that's been great. And she has quizzed the scouts on some of the things that brought them to scouting and what might pull in other people. But she's a good person to have in the troop. The state of the troop right now, we've got 8 active scouts. Let me make sure I count that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 and 9 if you count JP. So that's not a bad number. 8 is a patrol. When we need to do competitions, we can divide it in half. My personal goal is by the end of 2021, I'd like to have the troop back up around 16, 17, 18 members. If we can, and I believe that's very achievable. I think we can make that happen with ease. I've not checked in with our treasurer, so I'm not sure how we are financially. We collected national dues this past year, but we didn't collect any actual troop dues. And we've got some expenses that are going to be coming up that we're either going to have to deal with through fundraising, through us all just pitching in, or actually collecting dues or something, because our stoves are dying. We've got some equipment stuff that just needs to be maintained. And Sean had pointed out that a good deal of us are behind on youth protection training. So we've got recharter coming up in November anyway. I'll be putting an email out to the specific people who are behind on youth protection training. It includes me. And we need to get that taken care of as soon as possible. We've been meeting virtually and have aspirations to begin doing some in-person stuff. From my perspective, working with the youth and talking specifically to the youth, they've been doing pretty well with the virtual meetings. It's not ideal, and they're in front of screens far too much for school and whatnot. It kills me that we have to do it this way, but what I've done is I've basically reduced the meeting down to an hour instead of an hour and a half. I think they're still getting stuff out of it. We're putting the onus on the scouts as much as possible to plan and execute the meetings, and I'm turning the heat up on that to put more and more onus on them. They are engaging with their friends, just coming to the meeting. They are seeing each other, and I think that's a good thing. Last meeting we had planned on doing, Owen was going to do a gun safety lecture. And if he's going to be here tomorrow, we'll do that. But if he's not, if you guys have away football games, we may do exactly what we did last week. But last week, what we did is we looked and we said, why don't we go back to the beginning of the book and start from there? And I happened to see that, I went in Scout Book, and I'm never 100% sure that Scout Book's records are correct, but I didn't see a rank for Russell. So handed it over to the SPL, and Hayden, William did a great job, worked through the 1A through F section of the Scout rank with Russell, and Russell did great. We can continue doing some stuff like that if the meetings are small. If we are, yes.
No, Owen is not able to attend tomorrow. Get you there. And while Owen is not able to attend probably through November 1st.
Mm-hmm. That's on the agenda. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, but you talked about for tomorrow. And while Aiden did some rank work at the virtual scout camp, he doesn't have he might have earned scout then. I don't think so, but that's something to look at too. Right. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And that's really my focus at this point. We've gotten our act together enough that I have started going in and looking at individual records and trying to make plans so that our youth can start seeing some progress. I think, keeping them engaged isn't, obviously they want to do camping, hiking and stuff. We've got to make sure we can safely do that. And they have to see progress. They have to say, okay, I worked on the gardening merit badge. Now where is it? We've got to be able to present them the actual reward. So, and again, I'm just running through the state of the troop real rapidly, and then we're going to go into a few more details as we go on. But I know virtual meetings don't seem great, but I did want to let you know from my perspective, I'm impressed with how the Scouts have engaged the virtual meetings. They seem to have had some fun with the games. They're going to have more fun when we get back to in person. So that brings me to the next bullet in the state of the troop, which is the Scouts are planning their own meetings at this point. The approach we've taken is since we basically have an SPL and one patrol, we said, you know what, let's do PLCs as a group. And so they took several meetings and planned out the themes that they wanted to do over the next several months. They talked about COVID safe activities if the troop committee approved it, and it was good discussions, and they are going, this is part of it. And the four things we do in Scouts, it's character development, it's citizenship, fitness, and leadership. Part of the leadership is organizing and planning, and they are going to come out of this with skills that are going to benefit them in their adult life. Hayden has been an SPL for a very long time. So one of the things we're going to talk about is how to pull in a new SPL in October. I've got some very specific thoughts on that. And then we're overdue on a court of honor. So I'm going to babble a bit, and then we're going to try to get some engagement going. What's been happening during lockdown, Mr. Givens took the youth through the Family Life Merit Badge, and I believe everybody did everything they had to do to achieve that. I took them through the Gardening Merit Badge. There are some Scouts, and I'm going to work with them in their individual Scoutmaster conferences on this one, who have not done some of the work to actually make me feel comfortable signing off on the badge. My son's one of them. He has not done the 90-day project. So he is going to build a composting bin for us where he's not going to earn the badge. That's the kind of thing that I'm going to be. If your Scout comes back and says, oh, I got to do this thing, that's why. It's just they did not do it when we were actually working through it.
Hey, Doug, as they've gone through those badge requirements, is that being entered in Scout Book?
Not yet. That's I've got notes on it, and I am working on getting it into Scout Book.
Okay.
My focus.
I'm happy to help you, but I don't have any of the records to add it in.
Understood. Let me note that. That would be great. And I'll see if there's permissions or something you need in Scout Book that'll help you with that. Okay.
I did have full access, but I don't know because I was never like rechartered, so I don't know at what point they kicked me out of scout.com or scouting.com or whatever.
Okay. I'll look into that too. Got it. Okay. So the youth have been doing virtual meetings, and when I quizzed, they seemed comfortable with the idea of some physical meetings, except for one Scout who said he wanted to remain in the virtual. However, after I was thinking about it, and based on that Scout's other activities outside of Scouts, I think his motivation was more of, I don't want to physically go to a meeting. So, and I don't know if that's the case or not. I haven't talked to him, but just so you know, one of my goals is to make sure that we remain inclusive. I don't want to set up a situation where we go, okay, everybody's going to get to physically go to this meeting, except for this one person who is too terrified by COVID or whatever the situation is to actually meet. And then we're excluding this person because then that person's going to drop out. So I almost feel like it needs to be all virtual or all physical to be inclusive. Maybe that's not really the case. Maybe we can do a physical meeting where we've got a camera set up for the person who can't attend, or maybe sometimes we have physical meetings where they just aren't present. This is all new. We're not sure what to do with that. I said the youth are taking Russell through the Scout rank, and we're going to include Aiden on that. Some news you guys might be interested in is the district is consolidating districts. Tokwa is going to go away. So what you've got in the Great Smoky Mountain Council right now, I believe, is 11 districts. They're going to shrink it down to 5. So part of that's been driven by, in the past 6 months, they haven't seen a lot of service hours. They haven't seen rank advancements. obviously, I spoke to a troop in Maryville that since March, they haven't had a single meeting. So that plays into it, I believe. Sean, did you want to say something on that?
No.
Oh, okay. So,
Oh, yeah. No, do you want me to? Yeah, so each district is going to be represented by 2 district executives. So they'll still have the coverage. Any names that you would like them to consider, if your scout has a fun name for the district, there is a place to submit that for sure. But it's going to change a little bit. As far as roundtables and who our district representatives are and stuff like that.
we did bring it up with the Scouts Monday, let them know what's going on, and told them if they want to contribute to naming the district, that they can bring suggestions forward. Scoutmaster conferences. I'm at the point where I'm ready to start doing this. I'm going to put out a sign-up sheet to try, but what I want to do is meet with this. Normally, when we're physically meeting, I can do try to squeeze in Scoutmaster conferences during the meetings, or sometimes we would do them before the meetings, but this has been different. So what I want to do is I'm going to put up a sign-up sheet, and I'll get that out there where your scout can sign up and say, this is the time slot I want for my Scoutmaster conference. And the problem and the challenge is I can't do this by myself. There has to be a second adult in the conversation. When we're at the church, I might step into a room, but we leave the door open, or we use one of the doors that has a window and people can look in, and that counts as our 2 deep. But in this, if I get in a Zoom call that's one-on-one with the scout, that's not 2 deep. So it will either involve, when you sign up for the Scoutmaster Conference, I need to know that a parent's listening in the background, or we need to get a second adult who's willing to sit in on that. And I guess as a Scoutmaster Conference, we don't want to tag team the scouts, so that second adult's really kind of an observer probably in that situation. But that'll be on the sheet. So it'll be, here's a time slot that I'm available, scouts sign up, and make sure that we get a second adult in there. And it doesn't have to be the parent. I mean, if I'm having a Scoutmaster Conference with Kieran and I don't know, Sean wants to be the adult there, she can do it. So as long as I have that second adult.
Do you have certain times you're thinking of for that, or days?
I was going to put out a spreadsheet. I've got to look at my calendar and make sure that it's I'm not double booking myself.
Right.
But I'll try to put a whole lot of slots out there. And since some of our youth are virtual, I can do it during the day too. It can be day or night. And if we need to, I'll take it to the church. I have spoken to the pastor. We do have permission to use the church as long as the kindergarten's not there. If the kindergarten teachers and students are in the building, we can't be in the building. So where does that put us? I'm going over the youth records and trying to come up with some individualized plans for the scouts. And part of this is I'm working personally with Evan on principle-centered time management based on Stephen R. Covey's First Things First. Some of those principles I try to bring to the scouts too in their own project management and personal time management. So what I'm going to be doing is looking at each scout where they stand and the time they have until their 18th birthday, and I'm going to rough out what I see as a plan to Eagle for them. And in the Scoutmaster Conference, I hope to sit down and talk to them about their goals, whether or not they want to get to Eagle, and go over a plan, hopefully one that they kind of develop, and I show them, make sure it's in alignment with what I was thinking too. So I don't want anyone getting down to the last minute and going, oh, I need a leadership position for 6 months and I only have 3 months left for my 18th birthday. We don't want to do that. So, and I think either all these scouts should hit their eagle. Speaking of leadership positions, we have Hayden has been our SPL for over a year. My goal was to have the senior patrol leader changed out every 6 months. Obviously, circumstances threw us a curveball on that, but we need to give Hayden a break and we need to bring in other people. Now, the challenge with this is the next candidates for senior patrol leader are Owen, Kieran, Evan, and William. And these older three, we normally vote for the SPL, and we can still do that. But when I look at the calendar, if we look at 6 month slots, we've got October to April is a 6 month slot. April to October, another 6 month slot. So over the course of the next 2 years, we have 4 of these slots, which again fits an Evan, a Kieran, a Owen, and a William in some order. Now, it may behoove us to put Evan and William as the SPL during football season, and then to put Kieran and Owen in the spring. So the choice will be either we assign SPLs or we can do it as a vote again. But the leadership positions they need for Eagle doesn't say that they have to be a senior patrol leader, but I believe that they gain a whole lot out of that role. And so I'm leaning towards just assigning the SPL for the next 2 years, unless you guys object to that.
Now, Doug, there's also, like you said, there's other leadership positions. Like if there's only one patrol, you still have a patrol leader,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or assistant senior patrol leader.
That's
I still think having the boys, I think you explain exactly what you explained, and you explain the 6 month period and let the boys figure out who wants to take on which period. I think they're going to have more ownership if they get to sort of call it. The current sort of breakup, October to April, is not really ideal if either Kieran or Owen continue in football.
I agree.
Because when they're not going to be available, it's going to be really August, September, October, for sure.
And if they go on, yeah, for sure October. So it'd be November, possibly. I would even say like if West got into the playoffs, that takes the month of November too.
Gotcha.
Bearden won't this year, but it does. It will extend a month of practice,
right,
if they in the playoffs.
Now, is Evan doing any active rowing practices? He's doing practices. They don't have any events?
They're actually doing practices and competitions, but their competitions are virtual right now, where they're just doing timed competitions at their home base and submitting it to the organization that does it. So it's a bit of an
But
honor.
say we at some point are out of COVID restrictions, does his sport have certain seasons?
Oh yeah. He
And what's the main season for him?
It's really year round. I mean, when he took this on, I almost thought that he was going to have to drop out of scouts to make it work. But I talked to the coaches, and that's not really what it's about. So there will be conflicts. Now, in the senior patrol leader role, that doesn't mean that they have to be at every event. We expect that they're going to have conflicts, but we still expect them to step up and do. It's a bit of extra effort, but you get what you give. By putting in the extra effort, they're learning essential planning skills and how to mitigate issues with people and whatnot. But yeah, there's a fall. Evans rowing is year round, really. There's fall competitions, there's spring competitions.
I just know traditionally June and July have been a quiet time for us. I know that's not necessarily, everyone's sort of thrown off with COVID and the year might change, but it seems like it would make more sense to have a June through December and then a December through July
Right.
sort of
Well,
split up,
that's,
or January through July.
I think we used to do, I think we were 1 month off of that. I think it was like December to May
Hmm.
and then June to December, because you got that weird, December, and then school ends and people disappear. So those were the traditional transitional points. I was just looking at the calendar. I know the requirement is they have to be in the position for 6 months, and we've got to give Hayden relief.
Right.
If we say, well, Hayden has to hang in until December, he'd do it. But I'll play with it. I'll look at the calendars. What we
But
may end up
basically,
having.
if you want to have elections now, which is totally
Mhm.
understandable, neither Owen or Kieran are in a position to step into that role, and they know that. And
Yeah.
so it would be, does Evan want to take it on or does William want to take it on? And I think the boys are pretty good about sort of determining that for themselves.
Why don't I bring these points up with the youth and let them, it's remarkable what solutions they come up with on their own. And I mean, it may be that they recognize, well, they may say, well, you know what? Instead of being a year in the position, we need to be, to get on the cycle that we need to be on, we're going to do 7 or 8 months. Maybe that's the next person who has the role. Maybe they go from October to May or something. And then we're on that June.
I know I'm skipping agenda points, but we've tried to make that coincide with a court of honor before. So I know we are overdue for a court of honor. You want to talk about that. When are you thinking of that? Because that would be a point where we could.
If you look down in November, I put the court of honor on November 9th, Monday, November 9th. And, we can always push that back a little bit more. The biggest thing is that in the next court of honor, I want to make sure that Russell and Aiden and
Hey, Doug, this is a side note. Can we avoid the second Monday of the month? That was a hard thing last year for me.
was it? Sure.
For participating, because that's the PAC meetings.
Okay, I'll make a note, and I'll move that date. Avoid second Monday. But do other Mondays work for you, or do we need to have court of honors on a different day of the week?
No, after we get back past football, other Mondays work.
Okay, I'll pull the calendar up here in a minute. We'll run through that.
Kieran may not be available for football, although, it's our first year, so we're not sure. His team is likely to still be playing. The Monday conflict, and I think that's the same with Owen, is not their main football game. It's their JV football games.
That's what I
And
thought.
so I think even if his team goes into the playoff, which will continue into November, and they are likely to do that, they're really good this year, then I don't think they would continue with JV games. I think that's a more set schedule that would be finished by October.
Okay.
I agree.
That's your understanding, Sean?
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you for I love the input on the elections and whatnot, because I think you're right. The scouts can handle this. They're going to set a time frame. We're going to get them to decide who the next SPO is.
Personally, I know Hayden's family doesn't love having anything on Sundays, but I would love to have a court of honor on like a Sunday evening. So that, I don't know, there's just not the distractions and craziness from work and school and
Right.
sort of.
I just
That would be
I need to run by that by the church and make sure that we're allowed.
Oh, I didn't know we were planning it in person.
My thoughts on the next court of honor would be, we could do it virtually, but depending on we're about to talk about meeting in person.
Okay.
If we decide that we can have some in-person gatherings, the court of honor could be in the parking lot. But let me get back to that. Let me get to that when we actually talk about in person. So that's the elections. And if we start doing in-person stuff, we've actually had a request from Zachary Witt, who is signed up for Philmont for 2021. And he's got to get in shape for it. So he's looking for a troop that likes backpacking and hiking so that he can work with that troop. I haven't replied to him yet because if we're virtual, we can't help him. But if we're going to start doing hiking and stuff, I see this kind of request as an opportunity, whether Zachary or ever says, you know what, I'm done with 246, I want to come over to 147, whether he does that or not, his exposure to 147 and how we do things, he will talk to others about, and that's what is going to help us with recruitment. So when we see opportunities like this, I say we jump on them if we can accommodate. We may not be able to accommodate Zachary. So now we're down to the football question. Did I skip physical? No. Actually, I think I did. Why don't we talk about that real briefly since we've already touched on the subject? How is everyone feeling about in-person meetings?
I think my trip to the grocery store this afternoon was far more risky than an in-person meeting with 8 active scouts.
Okay.
Outdoors, there's a lot of hoops to go through if we want to do some camping.
Mhm.
But for like in-person meetings, strictly outdoors, wearing masks, social distance. I've yet to hear an outbreak at a scout meeting.
So my thoughts were that we can take advantage of the parking lot, that we can, we've got parking spaces and we can say, that's Evan's parking space, that's Kieran's parking space. And we can use the lines that are already on the ground to kind of help us physically distance. Of course,
And I kind of feel like, we've had half the troop at multiple houses the past month. Why not 4 more?
well, that's the other angle on it.
Can
But I
I
do.
throw a question in is if we don't address the football issue and meeting on Monday nights, then half our troop wouldn't be meeting on Monday nights anyways until November, at which point meeting outside might not be
Right.
the best because of the dark and the cold. So
Well,
I think
Megan,
that needs to be
I
in
think
consideration.
the pack is going to start. We haven't had an in-person pack meeting. We've only had den meetings, which which are basically the size of the troop, and they've been going really well. We are going to move pack meetings outdoors, and we're gonna incorporate campfires when it's cold and dark. We're gonna set up lights. We don't have the blessing yet to go inside the church, yet I'm having parents left and right searching for, and so we're
Attention,
gonna try it.
Searching for,
Yeah, you broke on searching for. What are they searching for?
Oh. They're searching for an activity.
yeah.
Activities for their kids,
Well,
and
I'm fine either way. I'm fine with the kids meeting. Honestly, I'm fine with them meeting indoors as long as they're like in the gym area and spaced out. I think they'll have some trouble spacing out. Like it'll
I
be
think the
a
gym
big
would be
job to
problematic.
space people.
The
But
gym would be problematic because they would be wanting to play basketball and
they'd have to be in chairs and spaced out. But anyways, my bigger thing is if we're wanting to incorporate Zach, if we're going to actually get like what kids get out of scouting, getting outdoors in person is more these hiking trips. And if it's not overnight camping because that's too much, that's to me not the biggest issue. It's how do we get to them together in a group where they're outdoors and in the woods. And so like really pushing hard to get them in person if it's going to be sitting in a parking lot, like doesn't really, I just assume do it virtual.
Well, the idea on the parking lot was that once we get them there, we can work on things like pioneering skills and knots. There's a competition I've been wanting to do with them forever that's called Raise the Tartan, which is where they take their patrol flag or a flag, a scarf, whatever, they each have the supplies that are ropes and cedar poles or staves or something. And the contest is to see who can raise the tartan the highest with a freestanding structure. So it involves lashings, it involves coordination, it involves logicking out the engineering behind it. There's all kinds of things like that we can do that both build skills and knots, make them have to exercise teamwork and problem solving. That stuff can be done in the parking lot. That stuff can be done in a field. That can be done outside. So, and that can be done for small groups, or it can be done for larger groups too. So it's not just let's get in the parking lot so that we see each other. I agree. If we're just going to meet for the sake of meeting, let's do it virtually. But if we're going to meet where we're actually teaching a skill, or Russ Schmidt comes and is demonstrating his rifle collection and talking about gun safety, let's do that. And that's one I think could be done in the gym. I think we could space the guys out of the gym. Schmidt could have he's done this for us in the past. He's brought the rifles and things. He's explained them to the scouts. We've taught gun safety and gone through some of the shooting sport requirements.
What do you think about, so if we do, the virtual meetings, for the weekly meetings, but I think Megan's point is too, getting him outdoors. It took me, we went hiking yesterday, and it was great. It really was. And it's socially distanced, and camping can be, but we got to rethink a lot of the things that we traditionally do. We don't have the troops that I know that have been camping. You don't use the church van to go to camp. Parents have to drive them to the location, and that is hard for some, but it's the safest. We don't have a grub master shopping for a community meal. You either pack your own meals to bring, or rely on meals ready to eat. You don't use your mess kit. You have disposable plates and stuff like that. It goes a little bit against the grain of scouting leave no trace principles. However, that is the safest.
Right.
And in the tents, it's got to be single person tenting unless you're a direct family member. So for example, Kieran and Brendan could tent together if they chose, or Owen and Aiden if they chose. So being outdoors is very safe. If it makes more sense to do the meetings virtually, that's fine. I know my experience, I think Doug has done a great job. I've done 2 virtual PAC meetings, and it's been an experience. So, but I get it. It's going to be dark. It's going to be cold, so virtually on that. I don't think we have to look at Zach so much, because there is backpacking troops that are already active that he could.
Oh, no. I'm not saying make any accommodations to pull him in. I was just using him as an example of how I feel that Troop 147 is going to win out of all this. And part of it is that I feel like what we're going to end up with is a hybrid approach where, well, we might have 2, and I put it in here somewhere. I was trying to figure out, but basically 2 or
excuses. So, but I've had Owen falling asleep during troop meetings. I mean, I can't help it.
No. I understand. And again, they're going to get, yes, I know that they're not always going to be interesting. And, but what I was getting at was that one of the models we can have is 2 or 3 virtual meetings a month with 2 or 3 physical meetings a month.
That seems aggressive. That seems a lot. I mean, I think we should go back to at least one monthly activity outdoors.
Okay.
Because you know,
That,
when
that
you
was gonna be, that
I,
was my last statement, was that we have an outdoor activity on a weekend. But I agree. We need to do some hiking, or we need to do some biking. We just have to decide if we want to go to the extra effort of doing camping trips overnight, or do we just want to do day trips? We're going to do.
I think a day trip is perfect to start to make everybody feel comfortable.
Yes, and I agree. So we've digressed a little bit. Let me bring it back to this for a minute, because with the football, we were talking about the conflicts and the options, and these were the options that I saw. So we could have meetings continue as usual on Monday, whether they're virtual or physical. We continue having our Monday meetings. If the football players can't make it, we have smaller meetings, and we focus on the individual needs of those people who do show up. Since we're a small troop right now, like last meeting, it was 4 people. Evan and William and Hayden were able to focus on Russell, and I feel like we made good progress. I thought that was a productive meeting, and they all seemed very eager to have done what they did. The other choice would be to move the actual troop meetings to Sunday night, which conflicts with William because he has mass from 6:30 on. Could be Sunday afternoon. It could be Tuesday night, but I think Tuesday night has football conflicts because I believe you guys are practicing on Tuesday nights. That's an option.
I think you need to plan for who could be there in October.
Yep.
And focus on them.
And that's my leaning, to be honest. And it's kind of what we've always done in the past. I'm a little recalcitrant to move the meetings from Monday because I think it will hurt our recruitment. Now, granted, some people can't meet on Mondays. They would love to see a troop that meets on a Tuesday night. But I believe people, they go into the first grade and they get in this habit of Monday nights when we do scouts. So when they're looking for a troop, I think Monday nights, as far as recruiting goes, we need to continue our Monday night meetings. Now,
especially since the PAC moved everything to Mondays a couple of years ago, that helps ingrain that Monday is PAC. Monday group.
And then the other option for football would be to skip regular meetings during football season and focus on Saturday physical activities such as hikes, service projects, frisbee golf, biking, canoeing, fishing, whatever. But I mean, that one doesn't have to really exclude that. I mean, we're still going to go for, I want to get back into at least one outing a month that is something along those lines. The question is, I think we continue our Monday meetings as scheduled. Whoever shows up, that's what we focus the meeting on. And if we do get our goal of 16 or 18 members by the end of next year, you're going to be back to that situation where, in a normal circumstance, if somebody couldn't show up, you don't cancel the meeting for just the 1 or 2 people, but we try not to leave them out. We want to always reach out to them and say, hey, you missed the meeting. Here's the information you missed. I think verbalizing that, I think sticking to Monday meetings and getting some weekend activities pulled together is probably our best bet.
Yeah, and I apologize that Owen didn't speak up and volunteered for that position on the lecture. I had a PAC meeting that night virtually too, so I didn't sit on the meeting, and nobody said, no, dude, you can't, you're not going to be there.
I'll be honest, you were a motivating factor for it because you're range master trained, and we thought, well, Owen can talk to you.
Oh,
you can help him.
Owen went through the range master training with me, so
Yeah.
he knew. I digress a bit. Can because range master is only Cub Scout related. I don't know the rules about troops visiting just a random shooting range.
Oh, we used to do it all the time. We go down to Oak Ridge when And
You
whether that was allowed or not, no. We were always big on the guide for safe scouting. I mean, Troop 147 has done some things in the past. Prior to my joining the troop, I remember this story about them going to Sevierville and doing bumper cars, and then later looking at the guide for safe scouting, going, "Okay, we weren't allowed to do that."
Okay. So, but then on the other hand, that the Tokwa district that is still, enforced until the end of the year, we are going to have a shooting sports day, and it's going to combine some elements of service. So those guys like mine who have held on to rank for a year because they need that 3 hours of service or whatever.
Yep.
They can do the fun shooting, and service in one day. So that's the first Saturday in November. They're a little pokey about getting it out. Camp Buck Toms is closed down right now because they're redoing the dining hall, which is fabulous news. And they are, so it's going to be Pellissippi.
Yeah, all activities are going to Pellissippi is what I heard.
Yep.
Can you confirm the date and times for us and what it takes to get registered for that? I mean, you don't have to do it right now, but I mean,
I do it right now because
back to us.
waiting. Yes, I will. So it's going to be very minimal cost. It's just the cost is just going to be to cover the ammo. I think they're planning on muzzle loaders and rifles and a whole, a lot of things. So
Awesome. That'll be good. And that's what the boys want. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let me jump to this next thing real quick. This one's easy. We have a question of, do we want to try for Seabase or Philmont in 2021 or 2022, and or continue our self-designed expeditions? So Lance and I are more than willing to try for the Boundary Waters in 2021, or where, if the scouts decide they're over trying to plan for the Boundary Waters and they want to do something different, we're more than happy to take them through that. I believe that there's benefits, there's pros and cons to each one. Philmont, I'd love to go see it, but a lot of that is almost like there's so much of it that's they serve two different purposes. Neither is bad. Everything's a good experience. And I mean, if you could do Philip, when he did the high adventure where we went to the desert in Escalante, he came back from that one, took 2 days off, and then went to Philmont. So he did them both and got an incredible experience out of it. From my perspective, I feel like the scouts, when we plan a Cumberland Island or a Boundary Waters or something like that, they get more out of it because of the approach we use to get them to do the planning and the preparation. I know it's always painful to parents, but it's really for the scouts. They come out of it understanding. And the neat thing about it is they understand how to plan a trip. And the neat thing about it is every time we do one of these high adventure trips and put them through that torment, the next series of camping trips that we plan, whether it's Shining Rock or Elkmont, they handle it so much better because they have a better appreciation for it. But if we are going to sign up for Seabase or Philmont for 2021, there's a few slots available. That's an individual thing. But if the troop wants to put together a contingent for 2022, the registrations are opening like next week. And I'll show that to you on the calendar here in a second. So this is a question to ponder, and it's going to come up real soon that we're going to have to decide, do we want to try for something like, I would love to do a Seabase in 2022. Maybe 2021 is Boundary Waters, and 2022, the last hurrah for these guys, for the older guys, would be Seabase. Maybe that's what we do. While I've got this screen shared with you, let me highlight some of the needs that I thought about for the troop. We've already brought up, for the Scoutmaster conferences, I have to have a second adult. Whether it's a parent or another adult, I just have to have a second youth protection trained adult, I guess. Swim tests. I believe Russell, Aiden, And I want to say William.
Mhm.
Brendan and William
Brendan. It's Brendan, William,
and Russell.
and Russell need to get their swim test done. The YMCA out west has been accommodating the rowing team for their swim test, and I believe they've accommodated scouts in the past. So it would be a huge help to me if one of you could take that on as an action item to find out what we have to do, where we have to go for a BSA accepted swim test and get these guys swim tested, because we cannot do canoeing or kayaking and things like this until they've had their swim test. And if we need to help them get to the point where they can pass a swim test, maybe that's something we need to work into our troop plan. Or again, it's not something I know. This is something I could really use some help from someone else figuring out.
Well,
what I want.
so, Doug, the West Side YMCA, their indoor pool's closed for the next month
Mhm.
because they're resurfacing it. And then I believe their outdoor pool has closed.
Mhm.
We did not participate in swimming this summer.
Gotcha.
So the West Side Y is probably off the table for a while.
But I mean, we've got downtown Y, we've got the one out by Concord.
Or West, yeah.
These things are spattered all over the place. But and maybe it can be somebody's backyard. Maybe it can be Shane Jackson's pool. I don't know.
No, you got to have a trained, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'll
Does
look at it.
Aiden still need his test?
Aiden has not taken a swim test because Aiden Russell got like 2 meetings under their belt before shutdown. So
and normally they would have
I'll look at it. I'll look at it.
It's
I've got-
4 of them that need it.
Okay.
Yep.
And Brendan's swimming has improved this summer, but it's not a given for him. And when I talked to William's family, they did not feel like it was a given for William. So I've brought this up a couple times that just like going to get a test might not be enough. I mean, it's worth trying and seeing where they're at, but
Well, okay. I can spend some time this week looking at that options for
So it
sure.
sounds like they may need some lessons or some confidence building before.
Yeah.
getting the test.
And maybe we get, maybe,
Maybe we have a resource for that somewhere.
yeah. Let me look. I will look for that.
So I'm putting down Sean to look into swim tests and practices.
and we would be interested in figuring out if there's like sort of even if it's a small group. I mean, it would be a small group
Mhm.
swim lessons sort of thing. I tried to fly swim lessons this summer, and Brennan was not at all interested in individual, but I think it was like a scout activity.
But if we can frame it like that, like, let's improve our swimming skills with scouts.
I think that would be great. And
Yeah.
what a neat little bonding thing for the 4 of them.
Yeah, it could be. Yep.
So the other big labor thing we have, if we are ever going to build trebuchets or monkey bridges again, we need staves and staves and poles. And I know there's different options out there. We've always gone with the cedar trees. They last about a decade. I mean, the ones we had lasted, I think, 9 years. If you store them properly, they'll last about 12 years. It's impressive that ours lasted as long as they did out in the yard. I put a couple of new poles out in our stack. So we want to be careful to not just throw away all the wood as cast out. We've got a couple of new ones there. But I got a friend in South Knoxville who's used to be what was his role? He was over conservation for the state of Tennessee, and he's more than willing to let us harvest some cedar trees from him for these poles. However, the last time we did it, it took 2 adults 20 hours, so 40 man hours to pull this down. I feel like we need adults and the scouts to go out and do this. Now, out of respect of the landowner's time, maybe not having the scouts fell the trees with axes, but instead us cutting them as low to the ground as possible with chainsaws. The scouts can't use the chainsaws. We can. Once the trees are down, the scouts can use limbing tools to get all the limbs off, and then we toss them in somebody's trailer. I don't have my little 4x8 trailer is not going to cut it. We need I might talk to Randy Hinky about borrowing his trailer, but we're going to need a truck and a trailer. We're going to need a day to pull this off. We're going to need a committed work party, and we've got to get that on the schedule if we want to do this, and if we want to continue to be able to build a monkey bridge. I think it teaches the scouts the knots really well. It's a great recruitment tool. I just don't see it very in other places much. It's something that I was hoping we would bring to Camporees, so that we could actually show other people how it's done. But is that something you guys would be willing to sacrifice a Saturday to help with?
That's your job, not.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we would be available to do
I will, if I have commitment from people willing to do this, what I'll do is
I'm willing.
I'll reach out to Billy and I'll see if he's still willing to let us have some trees. They have to be 4 inches in diameter or less. So, if his trees have grown super big, it may not be an option anymore, but there's other people we can find. Cedar trees are all over the place. All right, moving on. Help with recruitment. I did mention to Drew Prince, the pastor at the church. I asked him to reach out to the youth in the church and say, if you want to be part of Scouts, come visit 147. But we need to be coming up with ways to bring people into the troop. I want it to be, like I said, 16, 17, 18 by the end of 2021. We need AOL Scouts to visit. So if you have, it doesn't have to be from 251. If you see 5th graders that are interested in exploring Scouts, what I'd like them to do is come to 147 and see that we have a virtual program that hopefully is engaging enough, and that we do have some physical activities where they still get some skills and they can see that this is a viable troop for them. We need the membership so that William and Evan and Kieran and Hayden and Owen, even Russell and even the young ones. I was talking to Russell about that the other day. He said, "Who am I going to teach this to?" And he wasn't saying it because there wasn't anyone behind him. He was a little surprised that we were suggesting that he's ready to actually teach others, but he is, and he'll help teach the next group that comes in. So we've got to get young scouts in, or even older scouts in, so that they can exercise their leadership skills. If you have neighbors who have children who are bored, if you have friends who have 5th graders, or people who have been in Scouts before, dropped out, and are reinterested, bring them, let them visit.
Doug, what would you suggest for them? So we have friends that have boys. One would be in 8th grade and one's in 7th. Does it make sense to try to wait until we do like a hike or something where they join and are involved, or are we inviting them to? I mean, again, we're stuck where my boys won't be going to meetings for the next month.
Right.
So,
right. I think if one, start by getting them in touch with me or Scott, and let us have a conversation with them so that we can set expectations. And then I think it would be good for them to come to a virtual meeting. And then if we have something like a hike, that they come to the hike. But also if we know ahead of time, say they're going to visit in 2 weeks, we can work with the SPL to actually design the program knowing they're coming. It's not faking it, but we don't want to have a boring business meeting when we know we're going to have a visitor. Instead, we want to have an opportunity to teach that visitor a skill, give them something that they can take away from the meeting and go, you know what? I met some friends. I learned something. The game was fun.
Okay, so Doug, if Megan has 2 people that might be interested, I can invite the AOL troop virtually, or I even think that we need to start inviting the 4th graders, the Weeblos.
Cool.
And if we put that on the calendar, that would help us have a date to invite. Either if we want to start out virtually with them first, let's put a date on the calendar, and then because our AOL den this year is virtual,
Right.
And so it would be helpful, to have, if we can set that date, we can help plan it with you, and the boys can help plan it for them.
That would be great. And I mean, if they're willing to do that, absolutely. And what I talked to the boys about in that scenario was we suggested that if we're going to have a number of AOL scouts come over, if we know that there's a skill they need to learn, say it's the square knot, and we know how many are going to come, what we'll do is we'll plan breakout rooms in the
Yep.
Zoom session. But the way I want to do the breakout rooms is I want to make sure that each breakout room has 2 adult observers. And I want to put an emphasis on observers where the adults resist. And what that might be is that maybe all of our adults show up to the meeting, and the AOLs who are visiting have their adults show up. And then in the breakout room, you have an AOL adult and a 147 adult, and an AOL adult and a 147 adult in each room.
Or just guess, we can start a campaign, to recruit people to attend that.
And then the scouts, our scouts, would then in those breakout rooms teach the individual skill, whether it's a knot or a first aid technique or something that we deem can be communicated and use the EDGE method in that breakout room. And then we come out of the breakout rooms and we have group activities.
Right.
That's kind of my thought with the AOL scouts. Again,
So I would avoid, like, if we were going to invite 251, I would avoid, I believe the second meeting of the month is our PAC meeting. And then the third is their meeting.
okay.
So I would avoid those. But so we're looking at the 1st or the 4th. So if we're looking at November, then it's just probably the first Monday in November.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, I tell you what, we'll jump down on the calendars here in half a second. We're over time, but if you guys will hang with me a couple more minutes, I think we can rush through the rest of this. And I really do appreciate your time on this. And so it sounds like the cedar trees are something we want to do. My action item is contact Billy. Contact Billy. All right. We talked about recruitment. Really, we're a 57-year-old troop. Our birthday is October 1st, and we will be 57 on October 1st. So I do not want this troop to die and disappear. We have 4 older boys who are within 2 years of their eagle. They could lose interest. They could age out. They could eagle out. As long as we have 5 scouts register in November, we're fine. And I have complete confidence that we will get our numbers up by the end of next year. But I would rather get those numbers up now so that our older boys can pass on the traditions, the legacies, the stories, and the camaraderie to the new group. So please keep in your minds any chance, any opportunity you see to pull someone into the troop. Let's open that door. Youth protection and medical records. Like half the troop, Sean pointed out, like half the troop is out of date on youth protection training. I think this is a great opportunity for everyone just to go in, all of us, go into myscouting.org and take your youth protection training again. It's like an hour and a half now, but it's good for 2 years. Our process has usually been at recharter. Everybody, 100% of us take the youth protection training every year because that resets the 2-year clock every year.
I think I was thinking that I was good through the year, but it turns out that it was the end of May that I was good until. So I'll have.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's, that that's kind of my story of how I wound up in these straits. So yes, it looks like I have to do the YP.
Well, to
Yeah,
redeem,
make
to redeem myself, we're gonna have recharter done in 1 week. So I need everyone to get the youth to protection training out of the way now.
And once we start having outdoor activities, though, we need A and B updated for sure from everyone. And then C, just make sure you go. There's brand new forms being used this year. It's kind of lost in all the mess and noise. But about a year ago, they warned us. So make sure you're not using an old photo, copy or an old file. Make sure you get the most up-to-date medical records available from the file store at scouting.org.
And if your youth have just had a sports physical, you can probably just get that. Just give them that piece of paper and get it done. Evan just got his done, so I've got his taken care of. But each of us, myself, all the adults, all the youth should have medical records on file with the troop. That way, whether it's a youth or adult that has a medical issue at whatever activity we're at, we've got it covered. We could use a fundraising chair. We are coming up on needing, now, we're small. This is hard. Fundraising at this level is painful because we're all overtaxed. We're all trying to do everything, and I'd almost rather write a check, but I'm not that flush. I don't live in that tax bracket where I can just write a check for everything. So when it comes down to replacing the stoves and all this other stuff, we're either going to need to get a benefactor, which would almost be nice because I hate seeing our kids constantly turned into salespeople for band and scouts and church and football and rowing, and the sales drives me nuts. It would be great if we had a wealthy benefactor who could write us a check, but I don't see that happening. So if somebody,
I vote that we chair that until we get more active.
okay, well, I was going to say, if any of you get inspired and want to take on that role, it is something we're going to need.
Yep.
Which brings us to gear repair. We will probably need a weekend sometime where we go and inspect all of our gear. And we burned up 2 stoves recently because those valves eventually fail. We either need to buy new Coleman stoves, gas stoves, or we need to, they're not really designed well enough they're difficult to repair. But I mean, we can tear the ones down that we've got and try to rebuild them. One way or another, we're getting tight on stoves. Court of Honor, we talked about doing in November. That'll be on the calendar. We didn't collect dues this year. We talk about needing money, fundraising. We can either increase the price of our activities when we do them a little bit more. If the outing we think is going to be 40, we've always kind of rounded up to the next 5. Maybe we round up to the next 10. So if the outing's 40, we actually charge 50 to help cover some expenses, whether it's a flat tire or gas or whatever the case may be. But the question, we don't have to answer this one right now. But I don't like how scouting moved collecting of national dues to November because that's right before Christmas, and it just seems like we're asking people too much money. But the national dues, I believe, are going to be around 65, although I thought I heard that they might increase that a little bit. So we can either, we've always kept our dues in February because that's when we expect our Cub Scouts to cross over, and it keeps everybody in sync. So troop dues in February, national dues in November, but we need to think between now and
My honest opinion, Doug, is you need to move it all to the beginning of the school year, because that's what people in their minds think when they sign up for an activity. And, then you prorate it for people coming over in February. And if you do it in September or October, you miss the holidays or the post-holiday.
as a parent, I get nailed so hard in September that would put
That's hard.
That,
Yeah.
that would put a economic burden on my family. That's why I've never been in favor of doing it right at the beginning of the school year, because we're being hit left and right by other fees. But all I was saying was, you guys need to think about, do we want to charge dues, a different amount of dues? What we've been doing is charging, the whole kit and caboodle was $150. That was the national fee, and then the remaining 115 was our dues. So we don't have to answer the question now, but between now and February, we need to figure out what dues the troop needs to charge. If you guys would log into scoutbook.com and make sure your records are accurate, that's my biggest stressor right now, is looking in Scoutbook and going, is this information correct? When I look and see that Russell doesn't have the Scout merit badge, if I spend time in the meeting teaching him the merit badge, not the merit badge, but the rank, if we spend time working on his rank and he's already earned it, but I didn't realize that because it's not in Scoutbook, let me know if you see any discrepancies, and we can work with the council to get that fixed. Lastly, before we go to the calendars, if your scouts are going to miss a meeting, please let me know in advance so that I can adjust the program. If I'm hoping to have a meeting with 8 scouts, but I'm only going to have 4, it's going to change the dynamic of the meeting. Okay, when we talked with the youth, this is what they planned. I did not plant these seeds. They came up with this on their own. For the themes, originally in September, it was going to be aquatics, which kind of fell through. They had a biking for October. November, they had cooking. December, they wanted to do shooting sports. And in January, chemistry. So as you look at these themes, if you think, I can help there. If we have a chemist in the chat right now, he might want to help out.
Here, I can help. Yeah.
So the COVID safe activities they talked about were kayaking, single person boats. The rowing team has a good procedure for a 2-person boat. I think we could get away with canoe. Shooting range, fishing, including a focus on where to find the fish. And I thought there was another one. Oh, a day hike. The 4th one that I did not write down was a day hike, which, you know, these guys are tough. Maybe what we do is one Saturday we all drive up to Cumberland Gap and we hike up to White Rocks and back. That would be a fun day trip. Merit badges and service projects are to be decided. And let me just, you can look at these on the printouts I sent you, but just to show you, explain what I was doing here. Obviously September, we've mostly gone through it. Tomorrow night's meeting was supposed to be Owen speaking on gun safety. Since Owen's not going to be there, we'll make an adjustment to that. Maybe we'll have someone else do that chat. In October, where to go? There it is. In October, what I've done is anytime we have a meeting for the troop, it's in dark green. What we've got is the 5th, a regular meeting where we're going to elect new SPLs. Now, if you'll note over here, the red, anybody that wants to take charge of this for us, this is not something that I feel I have time to pull off. But if you got, I mean, once we commit to it, planning for it and getting ready for it's different. But as far as managing the registration and the lottery and hitting the deadlines, I'd like someone else to be in charge of that. But if the Philmont lottery opens up on the 5th of Monday, and that goes through to the 1st of December. So you have between October 5th and the 1st of December to sign up for the lottery for a chance of getting to go to the 2022. I've got the dates wrong here. That's 2022 Philmont lottery. Tuesday the 6th.
So all those high adventure bases, we're skipping. My kids love when I say swamp base in Louisiana. Because there is one, and there's also Northern Tier. They did an excellent job this summer keeping that camp open. In Northern Tier, the Boundary Waters. And so there's always, we're small enough where it becomes really expensive for 4 or 5 people to go
Mhm.
on their own, that we can join one of the Great Smoky Mountain Council's.
Contingents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now Seabase is a little different because I know the last time we did Seabase, there were only 8 slots, and that included youth and adults.
Yeah, there's a new person on the district committee, and I'm sure it will be transferred at the first of the year, who is totally focused on providing high adventure to our district.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so the other red registrations are Tuesday the 6th. We might at 10:30 a.m. Seabase for 2022. This is not. I've got the date wrong in this on your printout, but for 2022, the Seabase public registration opens and it's first come first serve. So at 10:30 a.m. you get on the website and you start hitting it, and you get registered for it if we want to do Seabase, and I'm not sure if that's a lottery-based one either. But I do know at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, if you're serious about that one, someone's got to be on top of that if we're going to do Seabase. Our scouts who did Seabase a decade ago had an incredible time and even tried to burn the boat down. So in classic 147 style, we left our mark. Wednesday the 7th is the Northern Tier registration, same kind of thing. Got to get on it, I believe. Roundtables can be any or all of us. It's great if we have at least one representative on the roundtables. They're virtual right now. It's just like this. Log in, listen, you take away some great information. Sometimes, you might come out of it and go, oh, Doug said this wrong, or the troop doesn't know about that, or whatever the case may be. It's good. It's a good meeting. KCS fall break is coming up on us rapidly. Do we want to do anything? That's an opportunity right there that if we want to try to have some activities, we can. If not, right now I've got no meeting planned for that Monday on the presumption that people will be doing other things. Do you guys want a meeting that Monday? Do you want to try to get an activity put together for that week? And again, we don't have to answer it right now. As I bring this to a close,
I think that I would support an activity.
okay.
I would favor that myself.
So I left all the Saturdays in these calendars blank, but my intention was to see at least one of these Saturdays on every month as some kind of activity that gets them out in the woods or gets them, maybe we go to the church and have the fire building contest. They haven't done that in a while. Certainly Russell and Aiden haven't been, and Brendan haven't been, well, Brendan has, but Russell and Aiden may not have been exposed to the burning of a string contest, doing camp stoves. There's all kinds of stuff that we can do physically and still separated enough that I believe it can be safe. So, so you notice some of the meetings, the second to last meeting of every month, I've said regular meeting with a board of review. Now what we need from the scouts is we need to know that they need a board of review before we ask the parents to do that. But if you can, when you see that on the calendar, if you can go, oh, we're going to need at least 3 adults who can go into a breakout session, still leave 2 adults in the meeting on board of reviews, that's what we need. We really need 5 adults in the board of review meetings. I've put on the first Tuesday of each month a troop committee meeting. I don't know why I crossed it out on the, I crossed it out on the 6th because we're doing this meeting now. Maybe we want to have another one on the 6th. That's really up to Scott. But I just threw it on the calendar so that we have something on the calendar. The reason I suggest the troop committee meetings be on a night different than the scout meeting is whoever's the scoutmaster really needs to be in those meetings. And it's very, very challenging to focus on, to deliver the program and participate in a troop committee meeting. So if you can do the troop committee meetings on the first Tuesdays, that'd be awesome. But again, not my place. That I just threw that on the calendar. It's for Scott to decide. What I did put on the calendar at the second to last Tuesday of every month will be our PLC meetings. I want the scouts to really get back to planning their own meetings and working together on it outside of the regular meeting. Jumping down to November, this day on the 21st. Thanksgiving is the 26th, 20th, and 27th. Traditionally, the weekend before Thanksgiving, we have had our family gathering in Elkmont where we cook a turkey in the box oven. Man, can Scott Johnson ever cook a turkey? He and Owen, they made a delicious turkey last year. So this year, we can do like we've always done. If we want to go through jump through the hurdles to have an actual camping trip, we can go up on the Friday. We can be there Saturday. We can bring up the Cub Scouts on Saturday. We can do Saturday night and come back Sunday. But considering COVID, what I did is I just left it as a day trip where we plan on getting up to Elkmont or Frozen Head, say by 8 a.m. We start throwing the oven together. Scouts go on a hike. We get a turkey cooked. If we have monkey bridge stuff, we build a monkey bridge, whatever activities we have planned for that day. But then we break it down and we wrap it up by 9 or 10 o'clock at night and get out of there. Just a thought. And again, we'll talk about this more later, just to explain what's on the calendar. That's really it. If you look in December, December's always been a mess because the last day of school is the 18th. We got a PLC on the 15th to kind of let the Patrol Leader Council have a end of year wrap up. The 14th would be a holiday party, and that's it for the year. Was this good?
Yeah, this is great. Does anybody have a thought about communal cooking yet? I know it's a tradition.
Yes, I do.
I don't think I'm wondering.
I've been talking to others about how to pull that off, and what they did in their situation was similar to what you were describing with disposable.
Yes.
Again, this is something if we decide we want to do it, we're going to have to approach it. In the past, we've had the scouts come up on Friday night, set up tents and do things. And then we've actually had families come up with casserole dishes and stuff. So, I mean, we could pre-make it at houses. Well, let me get back to hang on, I'm digressing. To answer the question and what I asked of the other troop, how they were doing it, the short answer is they designated adults to do all the cooking. No scouts were doing cooking. The adults were doing the cooking. They were wearing PPE and serving out the food, and that's how they mitigated.
Yeah, and I think that's an important approach to take, because we're gonna start getting into the flu season too, and so I'd rather have activities now. You know what I mean?
In all honesty, the pessimist in me thinks that everything's going to fall apart before November anyway. I think we're going to end up in virtual meetings for the rest of the year. I think I have some software I've been playing with to try to make it more engaging for the scouts with games and things and bops and stuff on the.
But looking at society, we're not closing down again.
No. Our numbers are going up. Oh, you don't think it's shutting down again?
No, nope.
You think we're opening up more? Okay.
Yes, I truly believe that. Just on the drive to Frozen Head yesterday.
Well, Kathy just said that we're giving up. Not us, but just our society.
Or our society, yeah. It's completely irresponsible to have college football and high school football and everything. It is, but nobody is going to shut things down again. And I think we 147 is in a unique position where we only have 8 active scouts, right?
Oh, I
So we
view this as a good thing.
we have 6 families, and we can do it.
Good. Okay.
We can do it.
Did I create any drama or questions for people? All
Is
right.
anyone left?
So what we're going to do is we'll have a meeting tomorrow night with whomever can show up, which it sounds like it's going to probably exclude the football players. We'll continue working through the scout rank, which is good because our older scouts need to teach it. Our younger scouts need to get it. And frankly, our older scouts need a review of it. I don't think it's a bad thing for them to go back through this. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry we're half an hour over. Any thoughts and stuff, email me, call me. But I want to thank you all for supporting the troop. This is a great family. This is a great troop. It feels a little stressful because it's small and you, from an adult perspective, we can think, oh, it can disappear in a heartbeat. It's not going to. We got good people. We got more people coming. The troop will continue. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys later.
All right. See you. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.